Hello, Enid. I am Diana, Communications Assistant for the City of Enid. And during the last commission meeting, Mayor Pankonin had wanted to do a recap of the commission meetings. And today he is here to give us a recap of last night's study session and commission meeting. Thank you, Mayor, for being on.
All right. Thanks, Diana. Yeah, I appreciate it. I just wanted to quickly go through. I plan to do this after every meeting, the day after each meeting. I won't always do it. I'm going to ask some of the other commissioners also to be involved in that. But I think it's a time to be able to sit down and say, okay, what really happened last night? For those that are wondering, okay, it's like they talked for about 2 minutes about stuff I didn't really understand, and then it passed 6-0, and I really didn't know what happened. So it's a time to be able to kind of educate on what it is that happens at the meetings and just kind of go through that for everybody's benefit. So we started out last night, as we always do, with the study session. One thing that was a little unusual last night, we welcomed Colonel Tim Danielson, who's the new wing commander at Vance Air Force Base. He just replaced Colonel Simmons, who has gone to Travis Air Force Base in California. Anyway, so that was his first time to be here. That's kind of a significant thing. I've been to a lot of places that had military installations. I've never seen a place where we actually had the senior commander from the base be an ex officio member of the council, but that's the way it is here. It really does keep the relationship close between the base and between the city. So anyway, we welcomed Colonel Danielson last night, and in fact, he gave the pledge last night, or led us in the pledge for his first meeting. After we got done with roll call and did the invocation, and introduced Colonel Danielson, we had 3 study session items. The first was to talk about an issue that's becoming pretty popular in the city, to try and start to get going the drive-in theater, the trail drive-in. I think we have, no, we don't have anything on that. We didn't have a graphic on that, but in fact, it's exactly the place where it was before. A few entrepreneurial young folks in the Enid community wanted to start a nonprofit to be able to start up the drive-in theater. I'm thinking it's a perfect time to do that. One, there's a lot of people like me that remember the good old days, and there was some fond memories from going to the drive-in theaters when we were younger. 2, in the days of COVID-19, what better way to be able to separate your family from everybody else's, but still kind of be together and involved in an activity. So I think it's a great opportunity to do that. So he's looking for a little help with that, and if anybody's interested, his name is Whedon. His last name is Mr. Whedon, so he's got quite a few people that are interested in supporting that, but he's trying to come up with, I think, $200,000 to get the nonprofit started, be able to buy and purchase the land where the theater is, as well as going to have to buy some equipment and then figure out how to move into, which movies do we get and how do we get onto that. But the very first step is we have to have enough money to be able to purchase the land and get it going. So again, like I said, it's going to be a nonprofit. But it's another example of people within the community trying to find a way to make things better in the community for everybody. Right. So really appreciate his efforts in doing that. The next thing that we discussed was a prototype for the trail sign. I think we have a graphic for that we can put up. But we have every place through the city, we're going to have signs for the trail that shows like a master map of the whole city and where the trails are. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, as you can see on the screen, they'll have each segment, and it shows just how that segment goes through. So it's got kind of a close-up of where you are now, as well as here's the big picture. So excellent job in putting together that. I think they look very professional.
Yes,
I was very pleased with them. added benefit is we don't have to go out, and as we expand the trail, we don't have to go out somewhere else and buy more signs. We actually have the artwork and stuff, and we can make all the signs in-house. So it saves money, provides a good positive impression of the trail system. So I was very pleased with the way that looked. The last thing we talked about in the study session was animal control, kind of a conversion from what used to be called animal control, and now we call it animal welfare. I was very excited to hear that our adopt rate for cats and dogs, pets, home pets, is over 80%. That's unheard of. I don't think anybody anywhere does that well. And in fact, it wasn't that many years ago we were in single digits adoption rates, which is much more common. So very, very pleased with the way animal welfare is doing. And so hats off to them. It's a great success story for our community. All right, that kind of took care of the study session. Then we moved had a short break, and then moved into the regular meeting. During the regular meeting, of course, the first thing we do is approve the minutes from the previous meetings, and that was done. Then we go into an awards and presentations segment, where we recognize 3 employees of the month for the city of Enid. Mr. Gilbert did that. All from different areas. He picked one from each of 3 different areas. And I think one has only been with us a couple of years, another has been with us almost 40 years. So to be recognized as employee of the quarter doesn't mean the one that's got the most seniority, it's the one that's doing the most during that period. So we were very pleased to be able to do that. Next, we considered appointment to the Police Civil Service Commission. One of the things that the City Council does is appoint representatives to different commissions and committees that are in the city. And this one is really quite a popular one.
Yes.
Excuse me. In fact, we had 7 people that were interested in applying for that, and we only had 1 position.
Yeah, that's quite a few.
We had background information from each person's application that each of the commissioners reviewed in advance. And we also provided an opportunity for those that were on hand last night to be able to state their case. Why would you like to be on the commission? So we heard from several, and Milton Mitchell was eventually appointed by the commission. So he'll be joining the Police Civil Service Commission.
That's great.
So congratulations to Mr. Mitchell. I think one of the most satisfying things I see is when we get to appoint people to boards.
Right.
Because it shows me community involvement. It shows me the people that live in this community want to make things happen in this community, and they're willing to step up and make it happen. So my hat's off to Mr. Mitchell for stepping up to do that.
Absolutely.
Next, we looked for, we had an appointment for the Enid Joint Recreation Triad. There were 3 candidates for 1 position there, and selected was Mr. Grant Mason. Mr. Mason has been a resident of Enid for a long time. He's one of the younger folks, which again is encouraging to me. I like to see people that have got a lot of experience, but I also like to see young people involved in what's happening in their city. So my hat's off to Grant Mason, and congratulations on your selection as well. From there, we went into had a public hearing, and it talked about language in the ordinance on both on zoning and marijuana grow facilities, trying to differentiate between agricultural parts and so different segments of the marijuana industry. So that's what we did public hearing on. Had a lot of community involvement in that, different people that actually spoke.
Yes.
After the hearing was over, during hearings you just kind of, it's put out there that so we can hear what public opinion is about the issue that we're considering. So there's really not a vote that takes place at that exact moment. It's more information gathering for the commissioners to find out the pulse of the community on the issue. Okay. Next, we went into community development portion, did a public hearing on some land that near Autry Tech where they want to expand, and then actually did an ordinance to rezone that tract to be able to allow that to happen. So, and that happens quite often. We'll have a public hearing. After the hearing, we'll then go in and do an ordinance after that. So that's what we do, and that's where the vote actually takes place, is with the ordinance. Next, we did a public hearing on rezoning an acreage over by Willow Road. I think previously it had been ag. It was rezoned to home use.
Residential, yeah.
Residential, and then because there was a thought by the owner that he was going to make residential out of it. Well, that never came to fruition, and what they wanted to do, the owner now wanted to move it back to agricultural. So that's what that hearing was about. After that, we did an ordinance, and the ordinance did pass. So it is now, it has been rezoned back to agricultural. Okay. Next, we had a 100% design review for a skate park. We got an exciting new skate park that's going to go in around 5th and, what is it, Randolph, Broadway?
It's
Broadway.
124 North 5th Street between Randolph Avenue and Broadway Avenue, yes.
Yeah, okay. But so it's going to be a first class. I don't know if we have a graphic on that. I don't think we
do.
Do we?
We do. We can show that here, but.
Okay. But anyway, we had a chance to look at the 100% design on that. It's going to be a really nice facility. I think it's going to draw people not only from the community, but from outside the community to come and partake.
Yes. So this is really neat. And one of the residents got up and spoke on how he saw the parks being updated, and it was really neat that they are updating the skate park. So
yeah,
really
that was a good point. Yeah, he said he sees all the softball fields, looks like, and they got soccer fields. And so, well, what about us? Right. And he said, you guys answered the question, what about us? Right. We've got our place too. So, excellent facility. I'm looking forward to that. Okay. Then we went into the administration. Considered an ordinance about that talked about making available video recordings from city property. In places where we have city property with cameras for security purposes, those are actually considered to be open records and can be requested. Anyway, that's kind of what we discussed there, and made an ordinance amending that and including those recordings into the open records opportunities. After that, we did a transfer to general fund. I think the transfer was to cover additional funds for the skate park. But anyway, anytime they're going to transfer money from one pot to another, that has to be approved by the commission.
Right.
So we did that. From there, we went into the consent agenda. As you recall, that's usually non-controversial things or things that are thought to be non-controversial. But any commissioner or the mayor have the right to take anything off the consent agenda items to discuss in further detail.
Right.
Commissioner Ezell requested that we remove item 8.1, which was the collective bargaining agreement for the police department. Asked that we take that off the consent agenda items so that we could discuss that further, so we did. So all the other items that were on consent agenda were approved, and we pulled that one off and discussed it independently and then voted on it independently. The concern was, Commissioner Ezell's concern was, he wanted to make sure there was a method for people that thought they had an issue with the police department, and they didn't think, if they had reason to believe that the police department might not give them an unbiased opinion.
Correct.
Is there someplace else you can go? And the answer is yes, there is. We discussed at length, but the Police Civil Service Commission is one of the places that you can go, and in fact they're appointed by the City Commission, so they're not wearing a badge, they're not in the rank and file, they're not part of the police department. And so we talked about that, and Commissioner Zell, I think, and all of us felt like that was a good way to be able to approach that. So we do, in fact, have a way for people that are uncomfortable going to the police department with a
Right.
complaint about the police department. They do have a place to go to do that.
Great.
So, but it was an example of pulling something from the consent agenda item so that it could be discussed further. And so, again, it's government in action.
That's right.
So, let's see, the consent agenda items covered quite a few things. Some of them were improvements for easements for the Caw Lake Water Project. So every time any place that the pipeline is going to go past somebody's property, we have to get permission from them. We have to reimburse them for the portion of land that we're using for the pipeline. Also for any damages that might be caused to their property for the pipeline. So all of that is done, and it's all negotiated. And if we come to agreement, we the city come to agreement with the owner, then that's put in here so that it can become official. So
That makes sense.
so a lot of that was covered there. That kind of covered the general meeting. From there, we went into the municipal authority meeting. Let's see, we only had one item there. It was to approve $60,000 purchase of chlorine gas that's used in the water treatment facility. It's an annual requirement that that we have to do, and that's how we treat the water. So took care of that. From there, we went to the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Oh, and it was just covered an agreement between ODOT and the Enid Public Transportation Authority. So, and it's something that we had to approve. And that was pretty much it. When it came time for public comments, there were quite a few people actually there last night. Some wanted to talk about the rezoning back to agriculture. They were concerned with whether or not there was going to be a marijuana farm in that area, and in fact, it was not the case. In fact, the person that's developing that came in and explained the process, or what his plan was, but no, it's not going to be 60 acres of marijuana right next to the golf course.
Right.
So anyway, that got explained. A lot of people were interested in the collective bargaining agreement for the police department, and their interest was, they were, I think, overall pleased that there was an increase in salary for entry-level police officers.
Absolutely.
We're short right now 15 police officers. We're authorized about 100 police officers, and we have 85. And it's really hard to get all of them to get up to speed on 100%. Because there's other places that they can go to make more money.
Right.
And if you're a young person and trying to figure out where to settle, that's one of the things that you think about. So we're trying to make our wages competitive with the local area, and we think if they are, that they'll stay here. So anyway, but there was a lot of people that wanted to address that issue. I think that's pretty much what was covered last night in the meeting. While I have everybody's attention, I wanted to say I did go to the 4th of July celebrations that we had throughout the town. We really kind of struggled with whether we should do that or not in the current COVID environment. And I want to tell you that I was really pleased to see at Meadow Lake Park, where I was anyway, there were quite a few people, but it really was family gathering here.
Right.
10, 15, 20 feet. There was another family gathering, 10, 15, 20 feet, another family gathering, and that's what we have to do. That's how we protect each other from each other. Not everybody was wearing masks, but I think a lot of people were wearing masks if they were walking around. So if you're with your own little group, that's okay, maybe. It's less not okay anyway. But so I was pleased that people were trying to live up to the spirit and intent. Whenever you have big gatherings like that, you just hold your breath and hope nothing really terrible happens. With all that said, there has been a marked increase recently in the number of COVID-19 positives in the area. And I'm talking with the city manager. We're probably going to come up with some some restrictions to be
Okay.
able to help with that. I don't want to go overboard. I'm not trying to kill business. What I'm trying to do is protect our neighbors. So I'm not thinking about closing things. I'm thinking about ways that they can stay open instead of closing.
Right.
So anyway, more to come on that. We'll be talking about that probably in this afternoon, tomorrow time frame. So that's kind of what's going on with that. So that's kind of my update for the week.
All right, awesome, thank you. And for the viewers, the study sessions and the commission meetings are open to the public. You are more than welcome to attend the study session and the commission meeting. The commission meeting you have to sign to actually speak, and it's on the topics that are going to be discussed, correct?
Right.
And the study session is a little bit more flexible.
Well, study session is pretty much, you can observe. Input is only from those that are invited to speak to the commission.
Okay.
So there's not really an open forum that happens in the study session. But if you want to find out what's going on and you see that, they're going to talk about the trail system, and if you're really interested, you can come in and actually see what's going on and listen to the briefing the commissioners are getting about the trail system.
Awesome.
So,
Great.
but in the regular meeting, you can sign up and address the commission if you wish.
Great. Now, for anyone who wants to personally send the mayor an email or contact him with a question or concern that you may have, we can provide the contact information on the screen here, and it's mayor@enid.org.
Right.
And also his phone number. With any questions or concerns that you may have, you can contact him directly. And this concludes the recap for the study session commission meeting and some highlights that the mayor wanted to make on COVID-19. And stay tuned with any other updates that we will have in the next probably day or so. We will see.
Perfect.
Thank you. You guys have a great week.
All right. Thanks.